Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us for this conversation here today. My name is Tim Horgan. I am the Executive Director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire. And we're excited to bring this conversation about the impacts of global trade policies on local businesses. We're so excited to have Kahn of K2 Industrial Controls, who lives here in New Hampshire, but has a business that is very integrated with China and does most of its production and manufacturing over there. But I'll let Kevin, who we'll bring on screen now, join us, and he can give us a little bit more background about what his company does and how it's integrated into the global system. So welcome, Kevin. Thanks so much for joining us. And can you tell us
thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what K2 Industrial Controls does?
Sure. Yeah, one correction. We actually don't do manufacturing in China. We do all the manufacturing in the U.S. and we export there. And so we specialize in industrial products like valves that you would find in oil refineries or power plants, even pharmaceutical manufacturing. And most recently, one of our big industries is alternative fuel vehicles. So vehicles that are using lithium batteries or hydrogen, things like that. And we work with U.S. manufacturers of these components and act as their sales and service arm over there. So we have engineers who will work with the factories there and try to specify these U.S. made products into the systems there where they can.
Great. Well, sorry for the confusion there, but
that's all right.
Yeah. So there have obviously been a lot of changes in the past 10 years, we'll say, in terms of the U.S. and China relationship when it comes to trade, whether that is the original trade war with China under the Trump administration's first term, all the way through to the COVID-19 impacts and the massive lockdowns and shutdowns that occurred in China. And now with the return of the Trump administration and the imposition of additional 10% of tariffs and the retaliation we're seeing from China on a smaller set of goods. Can you talk a little bit to us about what this instability, what this volatility in the relationship has meant for your company and sort of the ways you're approaching it as a business leader?
Sure. So this is early on what's going on with the new Trump administration, and we haven't had any retaliatory policies that have affected the products that we handle directly. During the first Trump administration, when we were going through that trade war, we did. China's retaliatory actions were targeted more towards specific industries, and some of those industries were in the manufacturing sectors that we work with. My understanding, what I've seen is that China tried to look for geographic areas that were specifically pro-Trump and see what type of industry clusters might have been within them, and then kind of tag some high tariffs on that to affect the Trump voter base. We're 8 years on, or 6 years on. They've gotten a lot more sophisticated. They have started to replicate a system that we've been using in the U.S. for a while, where they designate specific companies as unreliable entities, and if you pick up that designation, that could have major impacts on the business that you're able to do there.
That's really interesting. I hadn't heard the point about trying to target Trump areas from the Chinese side. So thank you for sharing that. I think one of the major concerns is the ability or the potential for this to continue to spiral. President Trump has said that the 10% tariff is an initial salvo he had during his campaign. Promised tariffs of up to 60% on all Chinese goods. We've seen a tit for tat in the past between these two countries when it comes to the tariffs and sanctions and designations So can you talk a little bit about what you're thinking, what you're seeing in terms of the rhetoric we've heard, where you think it might be going as you plan for your own business, and does what is going on make you reconsider anything that you're doing in terms of global trade?
Sure. So when Trump put out the initial 10% tariff rate, which he announced at the same time, along with the 25% Canadian and Mexican tariffs, he also had a statement in there that said if China tries to retaliate, there will be immediate escalation. We know since that release that there has been negotiation with both Canada and Mexico where those tariffs were not implemented. They've been stayed for about a month. But China did have an immediate retaliation. They picked some targets. I think the bulk of them are in the energy sector, where they started raising tariffs on coal and I think liquid petroleum gas. And they've kind of bandied about some company names like Apple and Google as companies that should be investigated as far as are they unreliable entities. And they have also brought up the Chinese exports to the U.S. of certain of the rare earths that are needed for a whole bunch of industries, automotive, electronics, where they are the major supplier in the world right now, saying, well, we might have to cut off supply to the U.S. if this trade war goes forward. As far as what I'm doing personally, I have to look to diversify and geographically and product-wise to make sure that we have enough going on to keep our business sound and healthy.
Great. And the final question I have for you: can you talk to me just a little bit about what it has meant for your business that's based here in New Hampshire, but has reaches all across the country and the world? Can you talk a little bit about what it has meant to have this base of operations in China? Has that been broadly positive? What has your relationship been and experience been in doing business over in China?
Sure. So, so I do have a company over there with employees that do sales and service, and we work with a variety of folks in China, both Chinese-owned companies as well as factories and branches of U.S. companies that are manufacturing there primarily for the Chinese market, companies like Procter & Gamble or Eli Lilly that basically use U.S.-made products in the factories over there. So I'm a big free trade person. I think that one of the best ways to keep temperatures down politically around the world is to have solid bases of trade with as many folks as you can. So I'd like to see more negotiation and not tit for tat retaliation. I think it's better for relations for everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us here today. I really appreciate you taking the time and providing us with your insights. I love the idea of telling some of these stories about global relations and global policies and how they are impacting local companies and what we can do about it. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim.
Great.
Bye-bye.